Thanks for joining us again and welcome. This section of mathematics applies to both the SAT and the ACT. And we're covering quadratic equations and the quadratic formula. So a quadratic equation is any equation having the form where x represents an unknown and a, b, and c are constants, and a will never equal 0. If a equals 0, the equation would then be linear, not quadratic. Now, if this is new to you, don't panic. This already looks confusing probably, but this really isn't bad. If you're new to the quadratic equation and the quadratic formula, again, it can look scary at first, but if you hang in there, it's really not that bad. So it takes the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. All right, so a quadratic equation always has an x squared. It always has another value for x, and then a constant c, and it always equals 0. Now you'll be given the values for a, b, and c. So once you see the formula, and this is why I say it's really not so bad, because once you know a and b and c, you're literally just plugging numbers in and solving. Just to get some terms down first, a is what's known as the quadratic coefficient, b is the linear coefficient, and c is the constant. If you're preparing for the ACT or the SAT, you will not be tested on these terms. This is just so you know, so that as a reference point, what these are called. So you'll see a problem like this. X squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0, and you need to solve this. Now, the first thing to notice is ax squared is the form that this takes. So if you're wondering, well, what is the value for a? Just remember that x squared is the same as 1x squared. So right off the bat, you know that a is going to equal 1 in this case. All right, and then we have plus bx, or on the left, plus 3x, so b equals 3. And then c, the constant, be careful that you don't think of this as equaling 4. That minus 4 tells you that c equals negative 4. All right, so a equals 1, 1x squared, b equals 3, 3x, and c equals negative 4. Now, there are 4 ways to solve a quadratic equation. You can use the quadratic formula, which is what we're doing here on this tutorial today. You can factor it, which is probably the fastest way of doing it, but you can't always factor it, and that can be a problem. So you can always use the quadratic formula, but you cannot always factor. It kind of depends on the numbers. You can do something called completing the square, or you can solve by graphing. So again, what we're focused on here today is the use of the quadratic formula. So this is what the quadratic formula looks like. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Again, if this is new to you, that looks mighty frightening. It's really not. We'll just start plugging some numbers in to solve. So here's our problem again. X squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0. And here's the formula. So we start plugging numbers in. Now we know that b equals 3. So we'll start there. You just write the formula out again and start plugging these numbers in. So x equals negative b, or negative 3, plus or minus the square root of, so b squared, so that would be 3 squared, minus 4ac. 4 times a, which is 1, and c, which is negative 4. All right, so just kind of look at this. And when you do a couple of these, it becomes actually quite simple. And again, that's all over 2a, which in this case is 2 times 1. All right, so you begin to solve for the radical. And so it's negative 3 plus or minus 9. We get the 9 from the 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 9. Now we have minus 4 times 1 times negative 4. So if you just do it out one step at a time, minus 4 times 1, that's negative 4, times negative 4. So negative 4 times negative 4 is, of course, a positive 16. So it would be the square root of 9 plus 16, or the square root of 25. So we further break this down by taking the square root of 25, which we know is 5, And so x equals negative 3 plus or minus 5 over 2. Now the plus or minus indicates that there will be two values for x. And that's always the case with the quadratic formula because of the plus or minus that's in the formula. So we literally break this out so that we have negative 3 minus 5 over 2, and then we're going to have negative 3 plus 5 over 2. All right, so we just work those out like this. So negative 3 minus 5 over 2, that's negative 8 over 2. And the other one, negative 3 plus 5 over 2, is 2 over 2. So our x value is going to equal negative 4 and 1. So this would be, also be expressed as x equals the set of negative 4 and 1. So get this down, you guys, because it's really important. It's going to be on the exam, no question about it. And don't just understand it, practice it. Put some of your own numbers in if you have to. Just practice it, do it a few times to make sure you have it down. All right, good luck. And thanks for joining in.